When you're ready to build out your estimate for a job, we're going to go to the Budget tab. Here in the Budget tab, you'll see that we are viewing our cost item details as well as the estimating section. Now you can turn on or off these columns at any time, so I've chosen to turn on cost type and cost code by clicking on this little gear icon and toggling on those two columns because I find it helpful to estimate while showing those columns. All right, so whenever we're building out our estimate, we're going to add either cost items or groups of items to our budget. So let's add our first item here. We'll click plus item, and now we'll go ahead and enter in the item that we're looking for. Notice that when I'm entering the item, it's going to search my catalog for an item that I already have saved in my catalog. In this case, I'll create a brand new item just so we can practice it together. So here I will say kitchen remodel permit. Perfect. And now I have the option to create a new cost item. And now I can fill in the cost item details. So I can add a description issued by the City of Dallas. And then I can add in my cost type. It's not really labor, not really materials. It's more of an other. Your cost type is going to default your profit margin for this particular item based on your JobTread settings. Then we have our cost codes. Your cost codes are your back-end accounting codes. So if you're using QuickBooks Online, these will be your products and services. If you're not using QuickBooks Online, you can set up whatever cost codes you want to in your JobTread settings. So I'll go ahead and choose planning. And now I enter in my estimated amount. So I just need one permit. So I'm going to do quantity of one and the unit will be each. Then I add the unit cost. The unit cost is the cost that I'm incurring as the contractor for this item. So how much is the city charging me for this item? Let's say that the city charges $350. Perfect. Now you'll notice that it automatically calculates my profit amount based on my default margin for this item. So I'm going to be making $150 profit on this item. Now my cost, what I'm paying the city, is $350 plus my profit of $150 equals $500 that I'll be charging my customer for the item. So the price is what you're charging your customer. Let's add another item. So we'll click plus item, and this one I will pull from my catalog. So this one will be my walkthrough and measurements. Perfect. And now you'll see that I selected it from my catalog, and therefore it pulled in all of my cost and price details that were pre-saved in my catalog. So now all I need to do is type in the amount of hours that I need for the walkthrough and measurements. And so I added 2 hours. Now let's take a look at this. Our unit cost for 1 hour, it's going to be $45. But since I have 2 hours, that's 45 times 2, that will become my extended cost for the item. Same with what we charge our customer here. So we're going to charge our customer $75 per hour because that includes our profit. And since we have 2 hours, that means the total amount that we'll charge our customer for this item is $150. All right, let's pull another one from our catalog. So we'll click plus item, and this one will be design fee. All right, here it is. It's pre-saved in my catalog, so I can select it to add it here. Now, anytime that you copy an item from your catalog into your job budget, you can make all the adjustments you need to for that item specific to this budget. So we understand that every job is a little bit different, so that's why you can now adjust whatever you need to, and it only impacts this item on this job. It will not impact your catalog. All right, so here I can go ahead and just say one lump sum, and maybe for this job, the designer told us that their price is gonna be increased because it's a little bit of a larger project. So I can then change the cost, what I'm paying the designer, to $1,900, and therefore my price to my customer is adjusted based on my profit margin. All right. Now, all 3 of these items are kind of pre-construction items, so let's get them added to a group called pre-construction. So I'll click plus group, and now I can type in my group header, pre-construction. Perfect. Now I can create the new cost group here. Notice that there are no items within this cost group, so our immediate instinct might be to click and drag this group up above the other items. That's nice, however, we're not quite at the point that we need to be yet. So those items actually need to be nested in this group, and they're not, and we can tell because we can't collapse the group, and also our extended cost and extended price is not a total of the items within the group. So therefore, we need to get these items properly nested in that group by clicking on the item and dragging it up into the group. So now you'll see that they're indented and therefore they're collapsible and they are properly nested in the group. Now that can get a little bit cumbersome if you have hundreds of items. So if you'd like to take a shortcut, I always recommend best practice, add your groups first to your budget. If you add that group header first, you'll notice the 3-dot menu at the group header level, and now you can add a cost item directly into that group header without the need to click and drag. All right, that looks good. We'll go ahead and save our changes, and now we'll move on to the next step. So we have one group in our budget. Let's go ahead and add a few more groups. Now these are going to be pre-saved groups that are already in my cost catalog, and I am just going to copy them into my job budget. So we'll click plus group, and now you'll see all of your saved groups from your catalog, so you can then choose what you'd like to add. I'm going to add my demolition template here. And when I do so, you'll see that there are 3 items that are automatically brought over from my catalog because they were already pre-saved in that group. So at this point, all I need to do is add in my totals for this job. So we'll say 5 boxes of garbage bags, 1 dumpster, and then maybe 2.5 days for demo labor. All right, that looks good. Let's add another group plus group, and this one will be my framing. Here in framing, you will notice that we have labor and materials. So I can go ahead and add in the number of hours I need for framing labor, and then also the linear feet for that lumber package. Perfect. Let's add another group plus group, and we will choose electrical. Now notice in electrical, I have electrical labor and materials. So here you'll see that I already have some amounts in those items. That's fine, maybe that's the minimum that I'm always going to be spending for electrical, and now I can go ahead and increase that for this job in particular. All right, and then let's add another group here, plus group, and this one will be plumbing. Now notice in my plumbing group, I do have materials and labor similar to electrical. However, I do not have a cost or price on these items at all. That's because maybe for every job, the cost and price of my plumbing is always different. So you can save as much or as little information in your catalog as you need to. And at this point, we can send out a bid request, which we'll do in just a moment. Let's get the final group in here before we do so. So I'll click plus group, and now I'm going to select my finishing template, and here we are. And I can then add in my lump sums for my cleaning materials, maybe 3 days for cleaning, labor, and some punch list items, and then we'll do some lump sums for our accessories. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit save changes. Now notice you also have these quick tools to expand or collapse your budget at any time. Now let's go ahead and get that bid request sent out for our plumbing. So some of you may use bid requests, some of you may not, but if you do plan to use bid requests for your jobs, the first thing I'd recommend is turning on the bid request column. So you can click on the gear icon to open your budget view settings, and now we can find the column called bid requests. Perfect, let's turn that on. And you can rearrange it in your budget. I like it to be right before the cost there, so that looks good, and now I can hit save. Okay. So at this point, I'm ready to send out the bid request for plumbing. So I will need to create a new document to do so. So we will go up to the top and click plus document. Now I choose the document template I'd like to use, and I only have one template within my bid request document, so I'll select that. Now I select the first vendor that I'd like to send the bid request to. Note, you can send the bid request to multiple vendors. However, we're going to choose our first one now, and then we'll make a copy of that document to send to the others here in a little bit. So I need a plumbing vendor. Here it is, A.R. Perry, perfect. And then I'll select which items from my budget I want to include on this bid request. So I can choose one of my plumbing items or my entire plumbing group here, and then hit create. Perfect. Now you'll see that I have my bid request document. Everything is pretty much click to edit, so you can adjust what you need to here. And then you also can add in your scope of work as well. So I'll say replace all cast iron with PEX or PVC where needed, right? I can also add a footer if I need to. That's a good place to put your provisions or terms and conditions for them. Now you'll see that these spaces are empty for your vendor to enter in their bids. Since these are both lump sums, I'm just going to hide the quantity here and just show the totals so that they can enter that information. All right, I would like to require a vendor signature on the right-hand side, so I can turn that on. And then also I would like to point out the subject. Your subject is going to accompany the name of the document. So if bid request 128-1 is not going to mean a lot to you and you have a big old list of bid requests, then I would encourage you to add a subject in here. My subject could be plumbing, labor, and materials. Great. You can also upload files, photos, and videos for your bid request. So if you had any plans that you'd like to upload, you can add them here, and then you can communicate with any of the recipients and your team members as well. So we'll click Save, and then we'll choose an action button up top. So this action option that we have is Send. Perfect. Now you'll see my first recipient is Alan Perry from Perry Plumbing. And then you'll notice that I have an option to add additional vendors. So here we can choose to search our vendors by a custom field if we'd like, or we can search just in our main drop-down menu. So I'll select a couple other vendors I want to send this to. So here is Katie's Plumbing, and maybe I had another plumbing vendor. Let's say this HVAC vendor also does plumbing. We'll select them too. Okay. Now you'll see that you can expand to verify the information that will be included on each of their copies of the document, and then you can also type a message. Great, and now we'll hit Send. And so now you'll see that Alan Perry can come in and he can submit his bid. So he'll say for plumbing materials, it's gonna be about $600, and then for plumbing labor, maybe $1,250. Perfect. And now Alan can sign away and submit. Okay, we can also look at the other bid requests here in the document section, and let's submit another one on behalf of Katie. So here Katie might say her plumbing materials are going to be $1,200 and the labor will be $3,250. Okay, and Katie will sign as well. And now in our document section, you'll see we have 2 submitted bids and 1 that's going to be pending. We'll leave that pending for now. Now let's go to our budget and see what happened. If I click on the budget tab, I can now see in the plumbing section, in the bid request column, I have 1 pending bid and 2 submitted bids for each of these lines. I can expand these cells to see each of the bids, and I can even view the low and the high range here. Now at this point, I can make an informed decision. It looks like I should go ahead with A.R. Perry Plumbing and Heating, so I'm going to put those amounts in my cost. That's how much I am paying them out. This will be $1,250, perfect. And then my profit gets tacked on, and I'll go ahead and save those changes. Beautiful. Okay. Awesome. Now that we have our bids, we can move forward with our estimating process. So another really awesome tool within your budget when you're estimating is the ability to take mass actions. So if you want to adjust multiple cost items at one time, you can select a cost item by clicking the number next to it, or you can select multiple items. You can even select an entire group of items, or you can select the entire budget altogether. Whenever you make a selection in your budget, a mass budget actions drawer will pop out. This allows you to take an action on all of those selected items. So since we selected our whole budget, maybe we actually want to increase our margin across the board for this job. Right now we're landing at 35.64%. So let's increase that a bit. So we'll select an action, set the margin to, and we'll try to go ahead with a 42% margin, and we'll click Apply. Perfect, so any items that have been adjusted are highlighted here to double check your work before hitting Save Changes. Okay, another useful mass action is adjusting the total price. So if you were discussing with your client that the total job is going to be about $33,448, then you and your client negotiate down to $32,000 flat for the project. Well, now you can select your entire budget once again and choose the mass action, set the total price to, and we will say $32,000. Apply that action, and you'll see that your margin is adjusted to accommodate that total price to your customer. Great. So there are several mass actions that you can use throughout the estimating process. So I encourage you to play around with them a little bit to understand what options you have available to you. Now, the last step here in the estimating process is sending out our proposal. So in order to send a proposal, we're going to click on plus document at the top. So we'll choose our proposal template here. And now that, again, the system is asking us which items from our budget do we want to include on that proposal. So I'd like to include everything, therefore I'll just leave it all pre-selected and click create. Now you'll see that we have our proposal document. Again, everything is pretty much click to edit, so we can update our entire scope of work in the details section. We also can click on individual groups or items to add in more details or adjust how they're presented on this particular document. So here in the pre-construction phase, I might want to add my scope of work for that phase of the project and do the same for each of the group headers. Or I can click on an individual item and adjust the description. You also can upload files, photos, and videos to the group headers or to each individual item as well. Now, if you'd like to show or hide different parts of data on your document, you can use the tiny icons throughout. So there is this icon here to hide all the files that are attached to the cost items. You also can hide the quantity and unit price for all your cost items. You then can hide all the totals all together. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see that we have a full lump sum at the bottom. Or you can show more of the totals and maybe leverage the group headers to show or hide different levels of information. So I can hide all the sub items here and just show the group headers. And I also have the option to hide the sub item totals. So here I can hide those. And this way your customer is seeing enough information, but not too much information, right? Perfect, I like that. Now down below, you have terms and conditions, and you can edit them for each individual job. And then further down, you have the signature section. Let's look at a few more settings here. On the right-hand side, you do have that option to add a subject to the document that will accompany the name of the document. You also can choose to show cost and fee. If you are a cost plus builder, you're going to probably want to turn this on. That is going to show the cost of the project separate from your profits. If you're more of a fixed price builder, you're most likely going to leave that off. Oops, right here. There we go. And then you also have the ability to upload files, photos, and videos and communicate with anyone about this document. All right, so that looks good to me. Now that I've made my adjustments, I can click Save, and my action buttons are available up top. So let's send this out to the customer. We'll click Send. I can now send it to the initial customer contact. I also could add an additional customer contact, maybe that other homeowner, and get a signature from each. Then I can adjust my email message and click Send. Here you'll see it's a pending document. So each of your recipients receive their own email to access the document. Now you can also track all the activity when they receive the email, open the email, when they view the document, and when they sign the document. And then once they do visit the document, they can review and sign away. Now it is a fully approved proposal. Congratulations, you just sold the job. If you have any questions, please contact your success manager or email support@jobtread.com and we'll be sure to help.